Well, technology-assisted payments are quickly becoming adopted by the average Aussie consumer, from retina scans and fingerprints and even fridges to do your shopping. YouGov finding over a quarter of Australians are ready to use internet-connected devices to make payments, compared to 11% only 1 year ago. Well, let's bring in Anders Sörman-Nilsson, Futurist and innovation strategist, for a little bit more detail. Appreciate your time today. How do we fare in compared to other economies and countries then, I suppose, in terms of being, well, at least prepared? Is there also that level of willingness to make these sorts of payments, move to this sort of e-commerce?
Yeah, absolutely. And while it's often said that my native country of Sweden is the most cashless economy in the world, certainly Australia is moving in that direction. And it's not just the kind of generational cohort that you'd expect, but even baby boomers, of course, are in an era of, let's call it, pinflation, happily starting to engage with biometric authentication as well via thumbprints, retina, etc. So Australians are certainly technological early adopters and innovators when it comes to this payment technology.
And a lot, obviously, at the moment in particular, being made of virtual assistants, the proliferation of IoT devices, and there's, reading suggestions we're on the brink of a new era in commerce. What does that look like, do you think, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now?
Well, I think already now we can sort of imagine the day when you decide to go to work, your self-driving autonomous Tesla, for example, picks up a few of your neighbours around your neighbourhood, and then whenever you want to go to work, your self-driving car takes you to work. Then it does the rounds and it might sign up with Uber or another international network, or Car Next Door, for example, and do a few hours of work for you, actually earning some coin for you. At the same time, your smart fridge in your home has noticed that your milk is going off, and as a result has placed an order with your Woolies charging station, where of course your car, at the same time that it picks up your kids from school in the afternoon, also does the afternoon grocery shopping on your behalf. Of course, all of that happens seamlessly in the background, and of course this sort of also brings into, well, contrast to today, the sense of kids actually doing your chores for you. And then when you come home together with your kids from school, of course, you get brownie points for all of that happening seamlessly in the background. I think really the future of seamless commerce is closer than we think, and it may not be 10 or 15 years until we're actually in that future.
One of the key pillars of that, I suppose, in particular the adoption of it, is going to be around security. It's going to be around people confident in the level of privacy around their personal information. How does that sit at the moment, and what does that security look like?
Well, I think, again, oftentimes consumers are actually ahead of the game compared to what some corporates or organisations think that they might be at. And Visa's and YouGov's research shows us that in many ways here, technology has enabled new behaviours, and that increasingly Australians are willing to adopt these new technologies. And part of the reason for that is security. The future of biometric payments and retina scans, etc., is much more secure than the good old days. Certainly now cash is no longer king, and 16 digits on a credit card is not as secure as, say, tokenisation or biometric forms of payment. So one of the reasons we want to do this, for example, my mum is a baby boomer, and in an era of pinflation, she just reuses the same password over and over again. But for her, the idea of removing friction from commerce and just paying with her thumbprint instead is a great way for her to adopt new technologies and actually be much safer on the web.
Is that level of biometric security in of itself the only piece of security that we'll need? I mean, there are some suggestions that it should only be one step in a couple, 2 or 3 sort of different measures of security, that perhaps it's almost, some have said, a step back from having an individual PIN or something along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a step forward into the future, and certainly with tokenisation, for example, what happens is that you might get a particular 16 digit number or however many digits that might be via encryption, but it's only valid for a certain period in time, meaning that your card that you have for years and years is a way of potentially the past, and that the future is way more seamless, where that card becomes increasingly intelligent and will protect your identity in an era of identity theft.
See, look, Anders, unfortunately got to leave it there, but always fascinating. Thank you.
Great to be with you.